What's up guys, so today I'm going to show you the do's and the don'ts with a Marshall Vintage Modern. So this is really a plexi style amplifier and it's kind of based after a JTM 45/100 in the low dynamic range, and you have a ton more gain in the high dynamic range. So it's really awesome. And to start out, I do like this amp with its master volume lower, but I only like a few tones from that. So I'm going to start out with this power station, which is a really nice way to get lower level tones out of it. It's basically loading the amp down and then powering it up once again after it. So what I have here are the bass switch and the treble switch. So I have the bass switch set on deep and the treble on bright, and that's giving me kind of a pretty good tone using the volume kind of low. It's still pretty loud in here, on here, and then I have the presence and the depth at about 12 o'clock on there. So let's start out with this Marshall, this Vintage Modern here on the low dynamic range. And I like to use it as kind of a Malcolm tone on this kind of setting. It's also known for Jimi Hendrix kind of sounds, but I'm not an expert on that kind of stuff, so I'm not going to show you any of that. But let's check out a Malcolm tone with this guy. Yeah, that's a really pretty awesome tone. For that, I don't have any of the reverb. I'm not kind of a fan of reverb, so I'm not using it here. Master volume is cranked up all the way. I'm going to show you how effective that master volume is in a little bit, but I do believe you need an attenuator with this head. Then I have the presence on 0, the bass is at 8, the middle is about at 7, the treble is about at 5, the detail is about 8, the body is on 2 to 3, and we get the awesome Malcolm tone in my opinion. So let's try the master volume. So master volume is cranked right now using this guy to get it at a not destructible level, and I'm going to dial it down. So that's at about 8. So yeah, right now I have it with this guy bypassed to kind of show you how it would sound with the master volume. So I've got the master volume set at about 2 or 3, and it still sounds pretty good, but yeah, that's that's pretty loud for at home, but it sounds pretty good around there. I would not try to dial it back further because then it's going to sound like shit, and then yeah, then I would just go with another solution. I will say that there is a little bbit more fizz if you do that, so that's why I wouldn't really recommend it. This is again the tone you get with the triad. So again, that's just showing you the master volume on there. It's pretty nice at about 3 and upward, but I do prefer kind of the extra sauce that comes with it when you crank it. So yeah, the presence at 0, bass at 8, middle at 6.5, and treble at 5. And that is really good for that kind of Malcolm tone. And it also really receives bells really nicely on this kind of setup, especially if you have the master cranked. So let's check it out with this GTOD. Yeah, really sounds great. Another thing I forgot to mention is that it's really important that you use this head with kind of either greenback style speakers, or in this case G12 65 speakers from the late 70s that have that nice greenback kind of tone. And yeah, that really gives it a nice tone. Also, what I like on this setting is dialing the detail all the way up, getting a little bit less treble, and then we get this type of tone. You can also get in the mid boost, by the way, and you get a really nice kind of cranked up Marshall tone that is not too gainy. Yeah, so I really love the low dynamic range. That's about it for me at that range, so let's check out the high range. So yeah, for the high range, what I would do is lower the treble to about 4, get the presence involved to about 5. The bass is okay. If you want a tighter sound, get it a little lower. The mids, yeah, that's about okay. Let's start out with the mid boost out of the circuit. I like the detail between about 6 or maximum of 8. I don't go over 8. The master volume I set at about 5 or higher. But again, about 3 is where it starts to live, and I wouldn't go any lower than that. And we get a tone that sounds a little bit like this. I do need to press that switch to go to that range actually. So yeah, that for me is kind of that dream Marshall breakup kind of place where you want to be, and it sounds freaking awesome to me. So another thing that I like to do right now is either crank that gain a little bit more or just use the GTOD. So let's check out how it takes the GTOD. So yeah, it really sounds pretty amazing to me if you do it that way. You can also just crank it up to about 8 and that will get you in a really nice higher gain kind of Marshall sound as well. So yeah, that really gives that awesome, awesome sounding tone if you do that. So yeah, that's what I would do with this amp, kind of with or without attenuator. Let's try to dial back the master on this channel and see how it acts. Again, high gain at low volume is always a little bit of a compromise. So let's try it out at about 5. So yeah, I do really feel that you need to crank it at least above 5 to get it to work if you want this kind of EQ. I'm going to show you how I would run it if I don't have a master volume, if I don't have an attenuator. So what I would do is I would get that detail at about a maximum of 8. I would get the mids in at about 0 to 1, not low. Not high, I mean really get it in low and dial in just a little bit because it's going to sound awful otherwise. The presence you can really crank, the bass can add up to taste, the body at 0, and let's check it out. This is with the master barely open. So it sounds pretty nice for a really quiet tone. It's really quiet here with this set as low as this, and with the middle barely on and the treble barely on and the presence all the way up, the detail at about 8, you get a nice kind of Marshall tone at low level. But again, it sounds kind of boxy and it doesn't have the kind of balls to the wall. Kind of everything is kind of sizzly and kind of powerful sounding. It sounds more boxy to me, but it's a nice way to get a good tone at lower volumes from this Marshall. So if you don't have an attenuator, please try and use it that way. I have this guy bypassed at the moment. So again, as I said, master barely open between 0 or 1, presence all the way open, bass at 0, middle barely open at about 0 to 1, and treble also. Let's check out what these dials do if I crank them up. They're going to introduce a little bit of harshness that I don't like with this master solo. So you hear that harshness. That is what happens if you crank that middle too high up with the master low. So if you have the master low, middle's barely open, treble is barely open, and you get a nice tone. So yeah, that's a way that I would use it also. I hope this helped you to kind of get the most out of your Marshall Vintage Modern, guys. Please go ahead and press that little subscribe button down there. It helps you notify whenever I get new videos in my YouTube. And also press that little bell icon next to it. It really means a lot to me, guys. And then we'll see you later.